ओके। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले
भूतले
स्वयं रूपः कदापि ददाति स्वपदां। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगं रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगं ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण
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 हरे
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 राम
राम।
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
सो हम लोग स्टार्ट करेंगे उपदेशामृत क्लास। आज 8वां श्लोक हम लोग।
आठवां श्लोक।
तन्नाम रूप चरितादि सुकीर्तनानु स्मृत्यो क्रमेण रसना मनसि नियोज्य तिष्ठन् व्रजेत तदनुरागी जनानुगामी कालं नयेत् अखिलमित्युपदेश सारम। यस ब्रो, ट्रांसलेशन पढ़िए ब्रो।
The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time every 24 hours a day. Nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastime, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraj, that is Gokul Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service.
यस ब्रो।
Connection.
सो एक्चुअली क्या कनेक्शन है पहले वर्सेस और अभी का वर्ष का, कि हम लोग पहले के श्लोक में देख चुके हैं कि वाचो वेगम मनस क्रोध वेगम, ये सब वेगों की हम लोग को वेग को कंट्रोल करना है। बाद में लोग गोसाई बता रहे कि हम लोग को 6 चीजें उसको पालन करना है जो अनुकूल है भक्ति में, और 6 चीजें वो प्रतिकूल है भक्ति में उसको वर्जित करना है।
Yes.
तो ऐसा ये सब बताया, ठीक है। उसके बाद हम लोग को चैंटिंग में रुचि नहीं है तो क्या करना चाहिए। चैंटिंग में रुचि हमको गो ऑन चैंटिंग करते रहना चाहिए, गुरु का शरण लेना चाहिए। और हम लोग को कौन से भक्तों के साथ हमको संग लेना चाहिए, उत्तम अधिकारी, मध्यम अधिकारी, कनिष्ठ अधिकारी, उसके हम लोगों ने जो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स है उसके सिम्टम्स हमने देखे। तो अभी ये कनेक्शन है कि इन प्रीवियस 7 वर्सेस आफ्टर बैटलिंग सेंसेस devotees etc come to Braja. In this verse Rupa Goswami gives the essence of all advice to fix one's mind in Krishna without deviation by constantly hearing and chanting about him and remembering his pastimes. तो यूजुअली क्या होता है कि अभी पूरे 7 वर्सेस खत्म होने के बाद जब पूरा सेंसेस को कंट्रोल करके बोल रहे कि व्रज में आ जाओ, तो अभी रूप गोस्वामी पूरा एडवाइस जो भी दिया उन्होंने उसका एसेंस दे रहे कि कृष्णा में हमारा मन लगाओ विदाउट डेविएशन, ठीक है। और क्या करो साथ में, हियरिंग, चैंटिंग अबाउट हिम एंड रिमेम्बरिंग हिज पास्ट, उनका श्रवण कीर्तन और उनके जो कथा है उनका स्मरण करो। तो इस प्रकार से ये श्लोक में इस प्रकार से बता कि ये पूरा जो भी एडवाइस मैंने दिया है, जो भी मैंने उपदेश दिया है अभी तक, रूप गोस्वामी बोल रहा है कि जो भी मैंने उपदेश दिया है वो सभी उपदेश का क्या सार है कि आपको पूरा समय 24 आवर्स आपको भगवान श्री कृष्ण का जो नाम रूप गुण लीला है उनका स्मरण कीर्तन सब श्रवणम करना है। तो ऐसा श्लोक आता है ना, स्मर्तव्य सततम विष्णु विस्मर्तव्य न चातुच सर्व विधि निषेधास्युर एतयोर एव किंकरः। तो तुम ऐसा करो कि बिल्कुल भी अपना जो कृष्ण कीर्तन है उसको हमेशा स्मरण करो और कभी भी विस्मरण मत करो। विस्मर्तव्य न जातुच, सर्व विधि, जो भी सभी विधियां जो है वो यही बताती, वो यही कंक्लूजन में आती। तो यही इसलिए लोग को इधर वो वर्ड यूज करें, उपदेश सारम। सभी उपदेश का सार क्या है कि हम लोग को 24 घंटा भगवान का श्रवण कीर्तन स्मरण करना, उनके रूप गुण जो भी लीला है जो भी है उनके विषय। तो कैसे करेंगे हम लोग? बाय एंगेजिंग वंस टंग एंड माइंड। तो हमारा जो जिह्वा है और हमारा जो मन है उसको सेवा में लगा। सेवोन्मुखे ही जिह्वा दो स्वयं एवं स्फुरति। तो इस प्रकार से हमारी जो भक्ति होती है तो वो क्या होती है कि वो स्टार्ट होती है जिह्वा से, जिह्वा दो। तो हमको सेवा भाव से भगवान का कृष्ण कथा जो है, कृष्ण कीर्तन है, वो करना। और इस प्रकार से इन दिस वे वन शुड रिसाइड इन ब्रज, ब्रज में रहना चाहिए, और वी शुड सर्व कृष्ण अंडर द गाइडेंस ऑफ डिवोटीज। तो अभी कोई डिवोटी पूछ सकते हैं, प्रभु जी हम लोग तो अभी अलग अलग जगह पर रहते हैं, हमारा जॉब रहता है, हमारा काम रहता है, हमको अपने घर का सब परिवार है हमारा, उसको पालन करना है, तो कैसे रहेंगे हम लोग ब्रज? तो इसका उत्तर तात्पर्य में दिया। ओके, तो हम लोग आगे बढ़ेंगे। यस,
प्रभु जी एक क्वेश्चन है मेरा।
हाँ जी प्रभु जी।
ये मतलब जो 24 घंटे खाली भक्ति में लगने के लिए कह रहे, तो हमारे जैसे जो, ऑफ कोर्स मैं तो अभी ओल्ड हूँ, मैं तो अभी कुछ काम नहीं कर रहा हूँ लेकिन कोई भी जो गृहस्थ होगा उसको काम जॉब करना होगा, उसको इनकम चाहिए, उसकी फैमिली है, बच्चे होंगे, उनको पालना होगा, तो वो कैसे कर सकते? 24 घंटे कैसे भक्ति खाली कर सकता कोई भी? तो कोई कुली खाली मंदिर में रहते हो वही कर सकते हैं ना?
यस यस यस।
और
तो प्रैक्टिकल सोल्यूशन क्या है?
और एक दूसरा और भी क्वेश्चन पहले मैं बोल दूं, प्रैक्टिकल सोल्यूशन पता नहीं, आप बताइए क्या। और दूसरा एक मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ, जैसे बहुत से लोग हैं वो विष्णु सहस्त्र नाम का जाप करते हैं, गोपाल सहस्त्र नाम एक आता है, उसमें देयर इज आल्सो 1000 नेम्स ऑफ द लॉर्ड कृष्णा और 1000 नेम्स ऑफ लॉर्ड विष्णु। सो हाउ डू दे कंपेयर विद दिस अवर हरे कृष्णा मंत्र, महामंत्र? ये दो क्वेश्चन है।
जी 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 जी, यस। सबसे पहला जो क्वेश्चन है आपका कि जो परिवार है जिनका ये सब जॉब करना होता है, उनको काम होता है, तो वो कैसे 24 घंटा हम लोग पूरा समय कृष्ण कथा कैसे कर सकते हैं? तो यस, तो सबसे पहले तो डेफिनेटली जैसे श्रील प्रभुपाद बोलते थे कि हम लोग तो अभी हमारा जो सोसाइटी अभी वो तो पूरा डिसमेंटल हो चुका है। ओके, तो पहले प्रभुपाद इसलिए बार बार वर्णाश्रम धर्म के विषय में बोलते थे कि जो भी गृहस्थ है उन लोग को वर्णाश्रम में रहना, वर्ण और आश्रम के हिसाब से 8 ऐसे भेद हो, और वो सोसाइटी में रहना। और वो सोसाइटी में जो सोसाइटी होती है तो उधर क्या होता है कि सभी लोग अपना कार्य तो कर ही रहे, अपना जो भी बॉडी का, शरीर का जो कार्य है वो तो कर ही रहे, लेकिन साथ में कृष्ण जो है, जो भी सेंटर जो है वो कृष्ण है, और जो भी कार्य कर रहे हैं वो सभी का कार्य का जो फल है वो भगवान को अर्पित कर रहे हैं। ठीक है, तो इस प्रकार से हम लोग धीरे धीरे भक्ति में अग्रसर होंगे। अभी जैसे मान लीजिए सिटी है, उसमें हम लोग इतना सारा जॉब रहता है, तो कैसे भक्ति करें?
जी, फुड ट्रैवलिंग
24 घंटा तो ऐसा है कि पूरा एकदम 24 आवर्स तो कि हम लोग 24 घंटा भगवान की भक्ति कर सके, क्योंकि हमारा हम लोग जैसे जॉब है तो फिर जॉब में तो अभी आजकल का सोसाइटी ऐसा है कि हम लोग जॉब करना है तो फिर ऐसा भी कुछ कर सकते हैं कि साइड बाय साइड हम लोग हरे कृष्ण कीर्तन है प्रभुपाद का वो रख दिए, या तो जब भी हम लोग जा रहे ऑफिस के लिए तो हम लोग प्रभुपाद का लेक्चर सुन रहे हैं, तो जितना हो सके हम लोग कृष्ण कथा कर सकते, कृष्ण कीर्तन करना चाहिए। अभी जिधर पॉसिबल है ही नहीं तो उधर हम लोग कृष्ण का चिंतन करते रहो जितना पॉसिबल है, लेकिन हम लोग को वो जो ड्राइविंग, वो जो सोचना है कि और ज्यादा समय हम लोग कृष्ण के लिए हम लोग को सोचना है, कृष्ण के विषय में सोचना, तो यही उपाय है। तो और दूसरा तो कोई जॉब में तो अभी ऐसा जॉब है कि आप सोच ही नहीं सकते। तो जो लोग बहुत उन्नत भक्त है वो लोग सब तो चलो हमेशा कृष्ण के विषय में चिंतन चलता रहेगा, लेकिन जो उन्नत भक्त नहीं है उनको ये प्रयास कर सकते हैं कि अपना ज्यादा से ज्यादा समय कृष्ण के विषय में चिंतन करे और इस प्रकार से व्यतीत करे। और दूसरा जो चीज आपने विष्णु सहस्त्र नाम, हाँ जी जी, तो जैसे कि आपने विष्णु सहस्त्र नाम के विषय में बताया कि वो कैसे हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र के साथ है, तो ये जो स्तोत्र जो है ये जो स्तोत्र है विष्णु सहस्त्र नाम, भीष्म स्तुति और अलग अलग स्तोत्र, तो ये
गोपाल
क्या करते
सहस्रनाम।
हैं? हाँ, ये सब तो ये सब क्या है कि जैसे मान लीजिए, जैसे मैंने बताया कि हम लोगों को हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र में रुचि अभी कम है ना, हरे कृष्ण मंत्र में अभी इतनी रुचि नहीं है। तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं कि ये जो प्रेयर्स है वो एक प्रकार से हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र का ही अलग रूप है, उसका ही एक्सपांशन है। क्योंकि हम लोग 16 माला जप करते उसके बाद सोचते अरे बाप रे, और 18 माला, ये तो और ज्यादा माला नहीं करना चाहते। मतलब इस प्रकार से हमारी रुचि अभी डेवलप नहीं हुई इसकी वजह से। तो इसकी वजह से जो डिवोटीज होते हैं वो क्या करते हैं, ठीक है 16 माला जप हो गया और साथ में जो दूसरा समय है वो ये सब प्रेयर्स में बिताओ। प्रेयर्स में क्या है, भगवान कृष्ण का नाम ही है, और इस प्रकार से तुम्हारा जो माइंड है वो एंगेज रहेगा। माइंड को थोड़ा सा मेंटल वो थोड़ा सुख मिलेगा कि हाँ अलग अलग भगवान के नाम है, और इस प्रकार से तो वो हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र तो इनफ है। लेकिन ये सब जो चीजें है इसके द्वारा हम लोग मन को और लगा सकते हैं, क्योंकि हमारा जो मन है अभी तक पूरी तरह हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र का जो कीर्तन है उसमें आसक्ति डेवलप नहीं हुई है। इसके वजह से ये और जो कीर्तन है विष्णु सहस्त्र नाम और अलग अलग जो स्तोत्र है तो वो हम लोग पाठ कर सकते हैं। तो ये एक्सपांशन ही है प्रभु, वो सब एक्सपांशन। लेकिन ऐसा नहीं सोचना चाहिए कि हरे कृष्ण मंत्र कीर्तन नहीं करके हम लोग बस विष्णु सहस्त्रनाम पूरा दिन पाठ करते रहे, ऐसा नहीं। हरे कृष्ण मंत्र का तो हम लोग को हर दिन ही 16 माला जो जप करनी वो तो करना ही है, क्योंकि ये जो हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र ये क्या है, ये युग धर्म है। तो ये प्रिस्क्राइब किया गया हमारे आचार्यों के द्वारा, तो हम लोग को ये 16 माला तो जप करना ही। तो इट डज नॉट मीन दैट वी कैन सब्स्टिट्यूट, वी कैन टेक, मतलब कि जो विष्णु सहस्त्र नाम है वही हम लोग पाठ करें और हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र का जो कीर्तन है वो हम कम कर दें, ऐसा नहीं सोचना चाहिए। तो जो भी हमारे आचार्य ने जो दिया है वो हमको पालन करना चाहिए, ऐसा।
जी जी जी, थैंक यू। एक में और
सो यस
क्वेश्चन
प्रभु, हम लोग बाद में प्रश्न ले प्रभु, अभी डिवोटीज भी आ गए तो बाद में
अच्छा,
लेंगे।
ओके, श्योर, थैंक यू।
यस, ओके। So why tongue and mind needs training to be engaged in Krishna's service? Okay. So abhi, so initially we don't have taste in chanting the holy name. So as described in the prior verses, that we feel the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra as very much bitter. Okay, because we are inflicted by the jaundice of ignorance, and that's why it's our duty that we chant this holy name. It's just like a sugar cane. So eventually this disease will be cured. Now, how do we have to train our tongue and mind? Okay, so that it will be always engaged in Krishna service. Now that's what Srila Prabhupada is going to mention in the very first verse, first paragraph. Yes. So I would like to ask Sutanuka Devroy Mataji to read the first paragraph.
कौन सा ये
Since
the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita 8.6, it is said, Yam yam bhapi smaran bhavat
भावम
tyajyate ante kalevaram tam tam iveti konteya sattad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail.
Yes, yes. Okay. Kusumika Mataji.
At
Hare
the time,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna bol. Hare Krishna. That's at the
Yes.
time, at the
Yes,
time
Mataji.
of that,
हाँ,
the mind and intelligence of a living entire entity create the subtle from a certain type of body for the next life. It if the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can transfer to the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan. This process of transmigration migration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advised devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything or other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna prasada. Srila Rupa Goswami further advised Tistan Varje. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Brajbhumi, rich Bhumi, or the land of Vrindavana is supposed to be 84 course in area. One course equals to square miles. When one makes Vrindavan has his residence, he should take shelter of an advised devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Krishnam Smaran Janam Kasya.
Just
पढ़ जो भी तेरे को समझ आ रहा था
पृष्ठम निजा सिमिथितम ता तत् कथा रतास कस्तु कुर्याद वासम वर्जे सदा. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Vaja and Ridge and always engage in Krishnam Smaran Janam Kasya Pristam. The remembrance of Krishna, Sri Krishna and his beloved associates by following in the footsteps of such
associates, and by entering under their internal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very nicely read, Kusumika.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Saurabh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandapana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Again, Srila Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.295, Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrahi Tadbhava Lipsuna Karya Vraj Lokanu Sarataha. In the transcendental realm of Vraj Dham, one should serve the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna, with the feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization. When one is Siddh Purusha or a spiritually perfect soul, notes if possible, live
Yes,
physically.
Pradeep, one second. Yeah.
Prabhu.
Yes. Saurabh Prabhu, one second. So here it is mentioned that we have to live in Braja, no? But practically, if you see for some devotees, it's not practically possible to live in Vrindavan. So now here we have to understand that we can live in Vrindavan or we can live in Vraja in two ways. Maybe a person who is physically living in Vraja, he might not be living mentally in Vraja. He might be committing aparadha or dhama aparadha. So that is useless. Okay, he is already committing offense and he will not progress in bhakti by living in such a way. But a person who is living somewhere else, not basically physically in a Braja or Vrindavan area, but he is living somewhere else, but he is constantly engaged in thinking about Krishna. Okay, he is mentally living in Dhama, then he will get the same effect, he will get the same result of living physically in Vrindavan. So if possible, live physically in Vrindavan without committing any Dhama Parada. Or if by Krishna's desire you cannot, then live mentally by always thinking about Krishna. Except for preaching, Vrindavan should be the place we should be living, or Mayapur. One should live with his mind in Dhama, not mind wandering everywhere. If somehow if we cannot live in Dhama, he should mentally live in Dhama. Okay. So these are some notes compiled from one senior sannyasi. Okay. So after this, Srila Prabhupada is quoting Anuvritti commentary written by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur on Sri Upadesamrita. So now he will quote. Okay. I would like to ask Neha Mataji to continue.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Anuvritti commentary. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon these words. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motive and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavana and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastime, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee.
Yes. So here again, if it is told us, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time. So ISKCON temple is there. Okay, that's the place where we can actually hear from a spiritual master and discuss the pastimes about Lord Shri Krishna. So there we can do Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam Padasya. In this way we can. Or if ISKCON temple is very far, ISKCON temple is not reachable, it's not possible for you to go to ISKCON temple regularly, then what you can do, you can make your home into a temple. You can make your home a Vrindavan, a place of Vrindavan. So, what is that song actually? In Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu, there's a stanza where it is stated that we can make Grihete Thako, like there is some stanza. It is mentioning that we can make our home into Golok Vrindavan, okay, by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by discussing about the name, form, qualities, pastimes of Lord. So this is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service. So now Sri Rupa Goswami is giving the Upadesasaram, or the sum and substance, the essence of all instructions. Now, since he's mentioning about Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasyavanam. So regarding that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he is actually telling about the stages of remembrance of Krishna. Okay, there are some stages which we need to know. Okay, what are the stages? So there are some dashas. Okay, because we cannot remember unless and until we hear. Okay, so yes, Trisha Sarma Mataji, in the neophyte stage.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, yes.
In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Dasa, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varnadasa. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Shravanavastha, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance of the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later, remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. Anusmriti, by uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. After smarnadasa or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna, that is called Sampati Dasa, the perfection of life.
Yes. So these are some dashas, or these are some stages of remembrance of Krishna. So the very first dasha, or the very first stage, is that in the neophyte stage, what will happen? First of all, we will hear Krishna Katha, that is called Shravana Dasha. After hearing about Krishna Katha, what will happen? We will come to the stage of acceptance, or mainly our faith will increase. Okay, our faith will increase, our attachment towards hearing of Krishna Katha will increase. So that is called Varana Dasha. Varana means to accept something, to develop taste for something, taste for something. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, okay, when he is always remembering about Krishna and always chanting about him in ecstasy, that stage is called Smarana Avastha. Okay, Smarana Avastha is called Smarana Avastha, the stage of remembering. Now, in the stage of remembrance, there are 5 items. What are they? Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance. These are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. So what will happen initially when we are in the neophyte stage? At first, what will happen? We will remember Krishna in interrupted. Maybe it will be interrupted at intervals. but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. So this is called absorption. Recollection is what? Again, we have to recollect. Again, we have to try to remember Krishna, or we are struggling, and we are in the conditioned stage. Eventually, when our taste, when our hearing and chanting increases, our taste also increases. And eventually the remembrance of Krishna is increased and it's uninterrupted. So when remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated. Okay, it becomes fixed actually, and it's called meditation. And after that, when meditation expands, it becomes constant. It is called anusmriti. So now you will think, Prabhuji, what is difference between this absorption, meditation, constant? So see, these are some progressive stages. Okay, these are some progressive stages, and that person, he will actually, in the stage of absorption or meditation, he will sometimes, maybe rarely, maybe sometimes he will forget. Okay, but in the stage of constant remembrance, okay, constant remembrance and trance, he will be like 24 hours. He will be just thinking about Krishna. So that's what it is mentioned, that it is progressively, these are some progressive stages. Okay. And that is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. Okay. And after smarana dasha or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. What is that? Jivera swarupa hoy Krishnera nityadas. So the jiva is the eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. He thus realizes. Okay. And his eternal relationship is re-established. And that dasha or that stage is called the perfection of life. Now, I would like to show a Subhodhini. There is a series. There are some guidebooks actually. So one devotee, Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, he has actually written so many Subodhinis. Okay, for example, Bhagavad Gita Subodhini. It's a guidebook, or it's a, you can actually see to it. And then you can get, actually in that book, there are so many flow charts, and the points are mentioned. So whatever purpose is there, it is being mentioned in point wise. So it is very nicely compiled. I would like to show that so that you will get an overall idea what we are talking about. So I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
Yes. You see, from Shravana to Smarana. So Shravana Dasha, Varana Dasha, Smarana Dasha, Apana Dasha, and Sampatti Dasha. Okay. So that's what actually we talked about. That Shravana Dasha is what? The neophyte stage in which one hears Krishna Nama and Krishna Katha constantly. After Shravana Dasha, Varana Dasha, the stage of acceptance in which one becomes attached to hearing Krishna Katha and performs kirtan of what one is hearing. Then next stage is Smarana Dasha, the stage of remembering Krishna. When one chant in ecstasy, it has 5 levels: Smarana, Dharana, Dhyana, Anusmriti, and Samadhi. So these are some Sanskrit names. Smarana is what? Recollection or distracted remembrance of Krishna. Dharana is absorption or remembrance of Krishna without distractions. Dhyana is meditation or concentrated remembrance or unbroken contemplation on Krishna. Anusmriti is constant performance of dhyana. And Samadhi is unceasing anusmriti or spiritual trance, where one's meditation is entirely free from impediments and wholly uninterrupted. And later on, Apana Dasha. Okay. So these are the 5 levels of Smarana Dasha progressively. And what is Apana Dasha? The stage where sadhaka achieves realization of one's pure spiritual identity. And Sampati Dasha is the stage of perfection when the soul finally obtains a spiritual form and is appointed to the eternal service of Krishna in the spiritual realm. So Srila Prabhupada has just mentioned this Apana Dasha and Sampati Dasha conjointly. Okay, so he has not just differentiated it, but as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he has actually mentioned in different way. Apana Dasha and Sampati Dasha, these are 2 dashas are different. Okay, little bit difference is there. but in order to easily make it understandable for the audience, Srila Prabhupada is just jointly mentioned this. So the sum and substance of all advice, what is that? First develop attachment through sadhana bhakti and then perform raganuga bhakti in one of the rasas. So as I mentioned before, we are performing sadhana bhakti, and in sadhana bhakti there are two divisions. The very first one is Vaidhi bhakti. Okay, a neophyte devotee performs Vaidhi bhakti. Eventually, when his taste for hearing and for Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu increases, then he comes to the stage of Raganuga bhakti. At the stage of Raganuga bhakti, he need not to follow the regulatory principles, but he follows to set an example in the society. Okay, and then later on, after there are three types of bhakti: sadhana bhakti, bhav bhakti, and prema bhakti. So now here Prabhupada is going to mention two divisions of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, that are Vaidhi bhakti and Raganuga bhakti. Okay. So Kant Krishna.
Yes. Can you hear? Vaidhi
Yes.
Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti, Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of Scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna, name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. Raga Nuraga Bhakti, when one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulative principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti. Devotional service is spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Rag Anuraga Bhakti.
Yes.
Ragunda.
So here, what is Raganuga bhakti actually? So the stage when one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna. So after Vaidhi bhakti, one comes to the stage of Raganuga bhakti. Now, just for example, what is the meaning of Raganuga? Raga means attachment. Okay, devotional service in spontaneous love. Okay, there is no interruption. It's a spontaneously one performs bhakti. One need not to one need not to be told, or one need not to be guided by some spiritual master, or do like this. These are some rules and regulations. Now, in that way, that person does not do this rules and regulations because he does not have interest to perform them. But in this stage, Raganuga Bhakti, he performs devotional service in a spontaneous. So that is called Raganuga Bhakti. Now, at the stage of Raganuga Bhakti, that devotee actually follows in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. Now, the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan, they are called Ragatmika Bhaktas. They are called Ragatmika Bhaktas. Okay. Now, we cannot become Ragatmika Bhakta. Just for example, Yashoda Mai. Yashoda Mai, her position is eternal. No one can take the position of Yashoda Mai. So Yashoda Mai can be called Ragatmika Bhakta. Okay, Ragatmika Bhakta. And we devotees can follow in the footsteps of Yashoda Mai, or a person who is having who is eternally situated in serving Krishna. Okay, who is eternal associate of Krishna. So we can follow in the footsteps, but we cannot replace their position. Just for example, we cannot become the mother, in a sense that we cannot replace the position of Yashoda. But definitely we can get the bhava or get that mood of motherly nature. Okay. For example, this Raganuga Bhakti is performed in 5 rasas: Shanta Rasa, Dasya Rasa, Sakhya Rasa, and Vatsalya Rasa, and Madhurya Rasa. So Vatsalya Rasa, we can perform, we can serve the Lord in the mood of paternal affection, parental affection. Okay. So Raganuga Bhakti or spontaneous devotional service can be executed in the Shanta Rasa when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the Dasya Rasa, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitraka, Patraka, or Raktaka. These are some of the servants. These are some of the names of the servants of Krishna. In the friendly Sakhya Rasa, one can become a friend like Baladev, Sridama, or Sudama. In the Vatsalya Rasa, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And in the Madhurya Rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani. So now Prabhupada is not telling one can become Srimati Radharani, but he can become like Srimati Radharani. Okay, or her lady friends such as Lalita and her serving maids Manjaris, like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotion service. So Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. He is a maid servant of Radharani. So Rupa Goswami's constitutional position, or the Swarupavastha in the Golok Vrindavan, is Rupa Manjari. Now we will get into the verse 9. Now we discussed the two divisions of sadhana bhakti. Those are Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. Now 9 to 11 verses. From 9 to 11 verses, Rupa Goswami is going to mention Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. Now this section is more of glorification and less of Upadesha. Why? Because in 8th verse, already Rupa Goswami, he told that Upadesha Sara. Now I'm giving essence, because already all the instructions are given. So he gave the essence, and now after from 9th verse onwards, he will mainly glorify the bhakti. Okay, he will glorify bhakti, and indirectly he will give the upadesha. So now in text 8, Rupa Goswami said, Tishtan Braje, stay in Braja. But what is Braja? In text 9, we will find hierarchy of spiritual places. Okay, we will find some hierarchy of spiritual places. Vaikunta Janito Varamadhupuri, Vaikunta Janito Varamadhupuri Tatrapi Rasotsavad, Vrindaranya Mudarapani Ramana Tatrapi Govardhanaha, Radha Kundamihapi Gokulapate, Premamrita Plavanat, Kuryadasya Virajato Giritate, Sevam Viveki Nakaha. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikunta, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan, because of Krishna's Ras Leela pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokul, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kunda, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? Okay. Saurabh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Purport.
Hare Krishna.
The spiritual world is three-fourths of the total creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is the most exalted reason. The spiritual world is naturally superior to the material world. However, Mathura and the adjoining areas, although appearing in the material world, are considered superior to the spiritual world because the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself appeared at Mathura. The interior forests of Vrindavana are considered superior to Mathura because of the presence of the 12 forest Dvadasha Varna such as Talvana, Madhuvana, and Bahulavana, which are famous for the various pastimes of the Lord. Thus, the interior Vrindavana forest is considered superior to Mathura, but superior to these forests is the divine Govardhana hill, because Krishna lifted Govardhana hill like an umbrella, raising it with his lotus like beautiful hand to protect his associates, the denizens of Vraj, from the torrential rains sent by the angry Indra, king of the demigods. It is also at Govardhana hill that Krishna tends the cows with his cowherd friends, and there also he had his rendezvous with his most beloved Radha and engaged in loving pastimes with her. Radha Kund at the foot of Govardhana is superior to all because it is there that love of Krishna overflows. Advanced devotees prefer to reside at Radhakund because this place is the site of many memories of the eternal loving affairs between Krishna and Radharani. Rati Vilasa.
Yes. So here mainly, basically, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the hierarchy of spiritual places. So now, how this hierarchy is actually like told or mentioned? What is the basis to tell this hierarchy? So mainly, this hierarchy of spiritual places is what, like, mainly the how Lord has actually um, came in contact with these places, and how much Lord is very much dear. Okay, Radharani is very much dear to Lord Shri Krishna. That's why his place stands supermost. Okay, from all the places in Vrindavan. So it's based on the rasa vichara. Okay, based on the rasa vichara, not in the ways of purity. Okay, because all the whole of the Vrindavan, whole of the wherever Lord stayed, that is pure. So this hierarchy is not being like categorized based on some purity level, but based on the rasa. Okay, based on the mellow, based on the interaction of the Lord. So Mahaprabhu understand the spiritual importance. Oh, 1 second. Yes, here. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyalila, it is stated that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first visited the area of Brajabhumi, he could not at first find the location of Radhakunda. This means that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually searching for the exact location of Radhakunda. Finally, he found the holy spot, and there was a small pond there. He took his bath in that small pond and told his devotees that the actual Radhakund was situated there. Later, the pond was excavated by Lord Chaitanya's devotees, headed first by the six Goswamis, such as Rupa and Raghunath Das. Presently, there is a large lake known as Radha Kunda there. Srila Rupa Goswami has given much trust to Radha Kunda because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to find her. Who then would give up Radha Kund and try to reside elsewhere? No person with a transcendental intelligence would do so. The importance of Radha Kund, however, cannot be realized by other Vaishnava Sampradayas, nor can persons uninterested in the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understand the spiritual importance and divine nature of Radha Kund. Thus, Radha Kund is mainly worshipped by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the followers of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so now we will get into the 10th verse. कर्मिभ्यः परितो हरेः प्रियतया व्यक्तिं ययोर्ज्ञानिनस् तेभ्यो ज्ञान विमुक्ति भक्ति परमा प्रेमैकनिष्ठास्ततः तेभ्यस्ताः पशुपाल पंकज दृशस् ताभ्योऽपि साराधिका प्रेष्ठात् तद्वद् इयं तदीय सरसि तां नाश्रयेत् कः कृति. Yes, Sneha Mataji.
In the Shastra, it is said that of all types of fruitive workers, He who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to the others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her Kunda lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis, who then will not reside at Radha Kunda and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings. Aprakrata bhava. Render loving service to the divine couple Sri Sri Radha Govinda who perform their Ashtakali Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the bank of Radhakund are the most fortunate people in the universe.
Yes.
Purport.
Okay. Sutanuka Mataji. Okay.
Can't hear.
Risha Sharma.
At the present moment, almost everyone is engaged in some kind of fruitive activity. Those who are desirous of gaining material profits for working are called karmis or fruitive workers. All living entities within this material world have come under the spell of Maya. This is described in the Vishnu Purana. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Set Ranjan Nakhya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samjananya Tritya Saktir Isyate. Sages have divided the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into three categories, namely the spiritual energy, marginal energy, and material energy. The material energy is considered to be the third class energy, Tritya Sakti. Those living beings within the jurisdiction of the material energy sometimes engage themselves, like dogs and hogs, in working every hard simply for sense gratification. However, in this life or after executing pious activities in the next life, some karmis become strongly attracted to performing various kinds of sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. Thus, the strength of their pious merit, they are elevated to heavenly planets. Actually, those who perform sacrifices strictly according to the Vedic injunctions are elevated to the moon and planets above the moon. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Sine Punye Mritya Lokam Vishanti. After exhausting the results of their so called pious activities, they again return to the earth, which is called Mrittiloka, the place of death. Although such persons may be elevated to the heavenly planets by their pious activity, and although they may enjoy life there for many thousands of years, they nonetheless must return to this planet when the result of their pious activities are exhausted. This is the position of all karmis, including those who act piously and those who act impiously. On this planet, we find many businessmen, politicians, and others who are simply interested in material happiness. They attempt to earn money by all means, by considering whether such means are pious or impious. Such people are called karmis or gross materialists. Among the karmis are some vikramis, people who act without guidance of Vedic.
Hello, can't hear.
Those who act on the basis of Vedic knowledge perform sacrifices for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu and to receive benedictions from him. In this way, they are elevated to higher planetary systems. Such karmis are superior to the Vikramis, for they are faithful to the direction of the Vedas and are certainly dear to Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Ye yatha prapadyante mam prapadyante tams tathyev
Tathaiv bhajamyaham.
bhajamyam aham. In whatever way one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly. Krishna is so kind, he fulfills the desire of the karmis and
Jnanis.
jnanis, not to speak of the bhaktas. Although the karmis are sometimes elevated to higher planetary system, as long as they remain attached to the fruitive activities, they must accept new material bodies after death. If one acts piously, he can attain new body among the demigods in the higher planetary system, or he may attain some other position in which he can enjoy a higher standard of material happiness. On the other hand, those who are engaged in impious activities are degraded and take birth as animals, trees, and plants. Thus, those fruitive actors who do not care for the Vedic directions, Vikramis, are not appreciated by learned saintly persons. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam,
I will
Nuna.
read the verse.
Okay,
Mataji, I will
no
read the
problem.
verse.
Okay.
Nunam pramattah kurute vikarma yadindriya pritaya aprinoti na sadhu manye yad atmanoyam asannapi kleshad asadeha. Continue, Mataji.
Materialists who work hard like dogs and hogs simply for sense gratification are actually mad. They simply perform all kinds of abominable activities simply for sense gratification. Materialistic activities are not at all worthy of an intelligent man, for as a result of such activities, one gets a material body which is full of misery. The purpose of human life is to get out of the threefold miserable condition, which are concomitant with material existence. Unfortunately, fruitive workers are mad to earn money and acquire temporary material comforts by all means. Therefore, they risk being degraded to lower species of life. Materialists foolishly make many plans to become happy in this material world. They do not stop to consider that they will live only for a certain number of years, out of which they must spend the major portion acquiring money for sense gratification. Ultimately, such activities end in death. Materialists do not consider that after giving up the body, they may become embodied as lower animals, plants, or trees. Thus, as their activities simply defeat the purpose of life. Not only are they born ignorant, but they act on the platform of ignorance, thinking that they are getting material benefits in shape of skyscraper buildings, big cars, honorable positions, and so on. The materialists do not know that in next life they will be degraded and that all their activities simply serve as prabhava, their defeat. This is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes, parabhavastavat abhodajataha. So, Sneha Mataji, continue.
One should therefore be eager to understand the science of the soul, Atma Tattva, unless one comes to the platform of Atma Tattva, by which one understands that the soul and not the body is oneself, one remains on the platform of ignorance. Out of thousands and even millions of ignorant people who are wasting their time simply gratifying their senses, one may come to the platform of knowledge and understand higher value of life. Such a person is called Gyani. The Gyani knows the fruitive activities will blind him to material existence and cause him to transmigrate from one kind of body to another. As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.5, by the term Sarira, Sharira Bandha, bound to bodily existence, as long as one maintain any conception of sense enjoyment, his mind will be absorbed in karma, fruitive activity, and this will oblige him to transmigrate from one body to another. Thus, a Gyani is considered superior to a Karmi because he at least refrained from the blind activities of sense enjoyment. This is the verdict of Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, although a Gyani may be liberated from the ignorance of the Karmis, unless he comes to the platform of devotional service, he is still considered to be in ignorance, avidya. Although one may be accepted as a Gyani or one advanced in knowledge, his knowledge is considered impure because he has no information of devotional service and thus neglect the direct worship of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a Gyani takes to devotional service, he rapidly becomes superior to an ordinary Gyani. Such an advanced person is described as Jnana Vimukta Bhakti Parama. How a Gyani takes to devotional service is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 7.19, wherein Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante.
Yes. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha.
After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Actually, a person is wise when he surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna, but such a Mahatma, great soul, is very rare. After taking to devotional service, under the regulative principles, a person may come to the platform of spontaneous love of Godhead, following in the footsteps of great devotees like Narada and Sanaka and Sanatana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then recognizes him to be superior. The devotees who have developed love of Godhead are certainly in an exalted position.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Mataji. Saurabh Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I was on call actually.
Oh, acha, acha. Yeah.
Tanuka.
Sutanuka Mataji, you can continue.
Hare
I can continue?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Of all these Of all these devotees, the gopis are recognized as superior because they do not know anything other than satisfying Krishna. Nor do the gopis expect any return from Krishna. Indeed, sometimes Krishna puts them into extreme suffering by separating himself from them. Nonetheless, they cannot forget Krishna. When Krishna left Vrindavana for Mathura, the gopis became most dejected and spent the rest of their lives simply crying in separation from Krishna. This means that, in one sense, they were never actually separated from Krishna. There is no difference between thinking of Krishna and associating with him. Rather, vipralambha seva, thinking of Krishna in separation as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, is far better than serving Krishna directly. Thus, all of the devotees who have developed unalloyed devotional love for Krishna, the gopis, are most exalted, and out of all these exalted gopis, Srimati Radharani is the highest. No one can excel the devotional service of Srimati Radharani. Indeed, even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he took her position and appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to understand her transcendental feelings. In this way, Srila Rupa Goswami gradually considers that Srimati Radharani is the most exalted devotee of Krishna and that her Kunda, Sri Radha Kunda, is the most exalted place. This is verified by a verse from Padma Puran as quoted in the Laghu Bhagavatam Nita and Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yes, I will read.
Yatha Radha Priya Vishnu. Okay.
Yatha Radha Priya Vrishnos Tasya Kundam Priyam Tatha Sarva Gopishu Saivaika Vishnur Atyanta Vallabha. Continue.
Okay. Just as Srimati Radharani is dear to the Supreme Lord Krishna, as though her bathing place is equally dear to Krishna. Among all the gopis, she alone stands supreme as the Lord's most beloved. Therefore, everyone interested in Krishna consciousness should ultimately take shelter of Radha Kunda and execute devotional service there throughout one's life. This is the conclusion of Rupa Goswami in the 10th verse of Upadesamrita.
Yes. This verse is actually in this purport of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is giving the comparative, like text, and describes the hierarchy of the different types of human beings. How many types of human beings are mentioned in this purport? Karmis, okay, Jnanis and Bhaktas. So, and Radha Kunda is the place of residence for the topmost human beings, for the people who are Prema Bhaktas. So those who have completely become so much attached towards, they have so much love for Krishna. So for them, Radha Kunda is the place of residence. They can only. So basically, the hierarchy was mentioned, and in that way, the superiority of Radha Kund was established. Now, I thought I would like to actually conclude, like I would like to complete this whole Upadesamrita, because 11th verse is the last, and its purport is also very small. So if everyone's consent is there, so I would like to proceed on and would like to complete this.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. कृष्णस्योच्चै प्रणयवसति प्रेयसीभ्योऽपि राधा कुण्डं चास्या मुनिभिरभितस्तादृगेव व्यधायै यत् प्रेष्ठैरप्यलमसुलभं किं पुनर्भक्तिभाजां तत्प्रेमेदं सकृदपि सरः स्नातुराविष्करोति. Of the many objects of favored delight and of all the lovable damsels of Vrajabhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love. And in every respect, her divine Kunda is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kunda is very rarely attained even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. So basically, like whatever is pertaining to Radharani, that is also very much dear to Sri Krishna. We can give a mundane example. For example, girl is there. So if a boy, he loves a girl, and then whatever belongings are there of that girl, so we'll also love that. Okay, he will also love that. So equally, how much love he has shown to that girl, same love he will have for her things. So similarly, whatever is pertaining to Srimati Radharani, even though it might be a kunda, that is very much dear to Sri Krishna. Yes. So I would like to establish the connection between the prior verses and this verse. Now, glorification of both the topmost place, Radha Kunda, and topmost person, Srimati Radharani, is mentioned. Okay. Request for the combined mercy by serving Radha Kunda. Text 11 perfectly illustrates the point that the cultivation of spiritual life is a gradual process. In the same way, as one is meant to read the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam before approaching the 10th canto, one must assimilate the first 10 verses of Nectar of Instruction before approaching Radha Kunda. Okay. If one fails to do so, one is sure to misunderstand the instructions given herein and ruin one's spiritual life. So first of all, one has to follow all the instructions mentioned in 10 verses, in the very first 10 verses. Then only he can bathe in Radha Kunda. He can approach Radha Kunda. Otherwise, he's not qualified. He will misunderstand and he will do aparadha in Radha Kunda if he has wrong attitude. Okay. So we'll get into the purport. Yeah. Why is Radha Kunda so exalted? The lake is so exalted because it belongs to Srimati Radharani, who is the most beloved object of Sri Krishna. Among all the gopis, she is the most beloved. Similarly, her lake, Sri Radha Kunda, is also described by great sages as the lake that is as dear to Krishna as Radha herself. Indeed, Krishna's love for Radha Kunda and for Srimati Radharani is the same in all respects. Radha Kunda is very rarely attained, even by great personalities fully engaged in devotional service. Not to speak of ordinary devotees who are only engaged in the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti. It is stated that a devotee will at once develop pure love of Krishna in the wake of the gopis if he once takes bath in Radha. Srila Rupa Goswami recommends that even if one cannot live permanently on the banks of Radha Kunda, he should at least take a bath in the lake as many times as possible. This is a most important item in the execution of devotion service. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in this connection that Sri Radha Kunda is the most select place for those interested in advancing their devotional service in the wake of the lady friends Sakhis and confidential serving maids Manjaris of Srimati Radha. Living entities who are eager to return home to the transcendental kingdom of God, Goloka Vrindavan, by means of attaining their spiritual body, Siddha Deha, should live at Radha Kund, take shelter of the confidential serving maids of Sri Radha, and under their direction engage constantly in service. This is the most exalted method for those engaged in devotional service under the protection of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that even great sages and great devotees like Narada and Sanaka do not get an opportunity to come to Radhakunda to take their baths. What then to speak of ordinary devotees? If by great fortune one gets an opportunity to come to Radhakunda and bathe even once, he can develop his transcendental love for Krishna, exactly as the gopis did. It is also recommended that one should live on the banks of Radhakund and should be absorbed in the loving service of the Lord. One should bathe there regularly and give up all material conceptions, taking shelter of Sri Radha and her assistant gopis. If one is thus constantly engaged during his lifetime, after giving up the body, he will return back to Godhead to serve Sri Radha in the same way as he contemplated during his life on the banks of Sri Radha. So finally, the conclusion is that to live on the banks of the Radha Kund and to bathe there daily constitute the highest perfection of devotional service. If a difficult position to attain, even for great sages and devotees like Narada, thus there is no limit to the glory of Sri Radha Kund. By serving Radha Kunda, one can get an opportunity to become an assistant of Srimati Radharani under the eternal guidance of the gopis. Now here, actually, again and again, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning about the bathing in Radha Kunda. Okay, so first of all, Srila Rupa Goswami, he told first all the instructions in that first 10 verses. At last, he mentioned that who has qualified, who has already come to the stage of pure bhakti, okay, bhav bhakti or prema bhakti, he can only actually bathe in the Radha Kunda. So here, Srila Prabhupada is actually in the last sentence, if you see, by serving Radha Kunda, one can get an opportunity to become an assistant of Srimati Radharani under the eternal guidance of the gopis. So here, by bathing, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that we have to serve Radha. We have to serve Radha Kund. How are we going to serve Radha Kund? How we are going to become dear to Radharani? If we spread her message, if we spread Krishna's message all over the world. Srila Prabhupada would have just sat in Radha Kund and do his bhajan. But Srila Prabhupada went to foreign countries, went to Western countries, preached the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and made so many devotees. So Radharani would have she would become more happy. She became more happier, okay, than just sitting and then only thinking about their own liberation or only their own, bhajana. So that devotee who is very much who is very much distressed to see the sufferings of other living entities, and thus he preaches about the message of God. He is more dear to Radharani because he is also very much what to tell, बहुत ध्यान देते हैं, या तो बहुत ज्यादा वो उनके जो बाहर के जो लोग हैं, जो लोग कर्मी हैं, उनके विषय में भी सोच रहे. So that devotee is paradukka dukhi. Okay, he is a paradukka dukhi. He becomes distressed by seeing others distressed. Okay. That's why that pure devotee goes out for preaching and tells about the glories of Sri Radha. Okay. In that way, even though we are living somewhere else, we can serve Radha. Okay. In that way, we can mentally bathe in Sri Radha. and we can become an assistant of Srimati Radharani under the eternal guidance of the devotees. So this is the actually intention of Srila Prabhupada here. Okay, so in that way, at the last, the goal or the prayojan is mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami. So initially, the Sambandha Jnana or the relationship between us and Krishna was mentioned. And the Abhideya, mainly the Abhideya, how to prosecute, how to execute devotional service. This was mentioned. And after all, so many verses are dedicated to explain the Abhideya process, how to execute devotional service. What are the 6 things which are unfavorable to devotional service? What are the 6 things which are favorable to devotional service? How do we have to develop taste for chanting? What are the categories of devotees whom do we have to associate so that we can advance? If we associate with Kanishtha, then what will happen? We will be degraded. We will not be able to advance in bhakti. And in that way, after properly executing devotional service according to the rules and regulations, initially, then gradually, what will happen? Our taste for chanting, okay, our attachment towards Krishna will increase. Then eventually we'll come to the stage of prema bhakti. And a person who is on the stage of bhava bhakti or prema bhakti, he can take bath. Physically, he can take bath in Sri Radha Kunda. But otherwise, that is prohibited. If we have so many anarthas in our heart, so much kalmasha is there, so many impurities are there, and with that same impure mind, if we bathe in Radha Kunda, then we will commit aparadha. We will commit dhama aparadha. Radharani will not be happy. So that's why it's advised that we, first of all, we follow the instructions given by Sri Rupa Goswami in the very first 10 verses. Then we can, after achieving the stage of Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, we can physically bathe in Radha. And in that way become dear to Srimati Radha. So in that way, I would like to conclude here. This way we covered all of the 11 verses of Sri Upadesamrita. So whatever I tried to explain, that was whatever you felt inspiring and instructive. That was all I learned from a spiritual master. And if any mistakes I have done throughout my sessions, please forgive me. And I would like to definitely work upon it. So thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, they can ask now.
Prabhuji, I had a doubt in the 10th verse.
Yes.
So there was a line in one of the paragraphs that I didn't understand. If you could just scroll down a little bit.
Where? I'm scrolling down to the purport of 10th verse. Where it is?
Prabhuji, I'm unable to find the word right now. But the sentence says, yes.
Yes. You
The
can tell if you
sentence-
remember that statement.
Yes, Prabhuji, it stated that Sri Krishna was unable to see Radharani's love or something like that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, something of that sort.
Okay. So you are telling that, yeah, regarding the separation from Srimati Radharani, regarding that, what asking.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it was like Chaitanya Krishna born in the next life as a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not that.
Yes.
Yeah. This one, I think so. I think so. This one.
Yeah,
There
yes.
is no difference between thinking of Krishna and associating with him. Rather, Vipralamba Seva, thinking of Krishna in separation, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, is far better than serving Krishna directly. Thus, of all the devotees who have developed unalloyed devotional love for Krishna, the gopis are most exalted. And out of all these exalted gopis, Srimati Radharani is the highest. No one can excel the devotional service of Srimati Radharani. Indeed, even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he took her position and appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to understand her transcendental feelings. So, yes. So here, the statement is there, no? Even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. So what happened? See, Srimati Radharani's love is the topmost. Okay, no one can excel Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna. And the person who is loved, okay, he cannot. So Krishna decided how much Srimati Radharani has love for him. So I also have desire, and I also want to taste that love, that type of attachment that she is experiencing, that type of bliss she is experiencing in loving me. So that's why to taste, okay, to taste that love or to experience that love for himself, Sri Krishna, he himself appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So one of the reasons for the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was that he wanted to relish, he wanted to come to the position of Srimati Radharani and wanted to relish the bliss Srimati Radharani is experiencing in loving Krishna. The bliss she is experiencing in thinking of Krishna in separation, or Vipralamba Seva. What is Vipralamba? Vipralamba means thinking of Krishna in separation. Now, since we are not on the platform, or we are not on that stage to think of Krishna in separation, because we don't have attachment for Krishna. So how we can actually develop that taste, or we can do that seva? But Srimati Radharani is the highest in doing that seva, or in Vipralamba mood. So basically, here it is mentioned that Krishna, he cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. How much Srimati Radharani is experiencing the bliss in loving Krishna. So to experience that bliss, to experience that love, Krishna appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before 500 years, just to understand her transcendental feelings. So this is all in basically Rasa Vichara, Mataji, not on Tattva Vichara. So Krishna is Sarvagya, or all cognizant. He knows everything. But that is on the stage, on the level of Tattva Vichara. Okay, Tattva Vichara means maybe on the stage of philosophical discussions or philosophical conclusions. But this stage, these feelings are on the stage of Rasa Vichara. Okay, based on the transcendental feelings. So we cannot mix the Tattva Vichara with Rasa Vichara. So that's why in that sense, it is mentioned that Krishna even cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. So that's why Srila Prabhupada is mainly mentioning here. And regarding that, I also mentioned regarding the hierarchy of spiritual places. So that hierarchy of spiritual places is not based on the purity level, not based on the Tattva Vichara, or on the how much pure it is. No, but how much that place is dear to Krishna, based on that. So that categorization or that hierarchy is based upon the Rasa Vichara. Okay, Vichara is like thought, or some type of stage. Okay, that stage based on the Rasa, or transcendental feelings. So in that same way, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that Krishna even cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. So I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, Prabhuji, understood. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, I would like to conclude here. Any comments one would like to give?
Thank you.
So I would like to,
Prabhuji.
yeah, I would like to ask devotees, was it helpful, like, this reading sessions? So were they helpful, or like, because what I was doing is I just categorized all the points which are mentioned in this purport based on some different like, for example, initially when I was discussing about the jaundice example, jaundice and sugarcane example, so that time Srila Prabhupada is mentioning so many points in purport, so many things. But if we have some overall idea, okay, what is going to be discussed, or what is the paragraph about, and what is the connection between the prior verses and this verse, so by actually by the mercy and by some notes given by my seniors, I was able to, I hope I was able to explain all this philosophical conclusions very nicely described by Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna,
It was
Prabhuji.
very nice.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, what you will be taking in the next class, Prabhuji?
Yeah, for some time I would like to give a halt, and after some time we will again start reading Ishopanishad. So I have a plan like that. Ishopanishad we can start reading the purports and the shlokas, and we can try to understand. So that's the plan.
Hare
So maybe
Krishna.
after 1 week or maybe after 10 days, we will resume the classes. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Dhanavad Prabhuji.
Yes, Sneha Mata ji, आप बोलना चाहते हैं कुछ?
हाँ, हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी। सेशंस बहुत अच्छे थे प्रभु जी। इसी वजह से हमारा बुक रीडिंग हो गया जो हम टाल रहे थे, तो प्लीज कंटिन्यू कीजिए।
हाँ जी माता जी, एक्चुअली ये इनिशिएटिव इसके लिए ही है कि ताकि हम सब डिवोटीज एक जगह आकर हम सब प्रभुपाद का जो तात्पर्य है वो समझने का प्रयास करें। क्योंकि
हाँ,
कभी कभी ऐसा होता है ना, हम लोग भूल जाते, तो यदि क्लास के रूप में लेते तो क्या है, हमारा फिक्स होता है कि हाँ अभी ये टाइम हो गया तो हमको पूरा टाइम अभी डेडिकेट करना है प्रभुपाद के तात्पर्य पढ़ने के लिए। तो हम लोग इसके द्वारा प्रभुपाद से संग ले सकते हैं। प्रभुपाद बोले कि मैं इस मोटल वर्ल्ड में नहीं होने के बावजूद भी आई विल लिव इन माई बुक्स। तो इन दैट वे, इवन दो हम लोग प्रभुपाद की वाणी सेवा, वपु सेवा नहीं कर पाए, फिजिकली हम लोग नहीं देख पाए और उनका सेवा नहीं कर पाए, लेकिन हम लोग वाणी सेवा कर सकते हैं। उनका जो भी उनका जो भी इंस्ट्रक्शंस है उसको फॉलो करके, उसको पढ़ के, तो ये हम लोग इसके द्वारा हम लोग प्रभुपाद की सेवा कर सकते हैं। तो यस, डेफिनेटली नेक्स्ट अभी हम लोग प्रभुपाद की दूसरी पुस्तक ईशोपनिषद लेंगे, तो इसमें भी प्रभुपाद ने तात्पर्य जो लिखे हैं वो हम लोग समझने का प्रयास करेंगे। थैंक यू माता जी फॉर कमिंग।
एंड प्रभु जी, व्हेन विल यू स्टार्ट वो विसर्ग संधि?
ओ या विसर्ग संधि, यस। एक्चुअली मैं क्या 2-3 दिन से कुछ चला गया था, बाहर में बिजी था, तो स्टार्ट करेंगे माता जी। मैं 2-3 दिन में मैसेज डालूंगा, ऑफिशियल मैसेज, तो आई विल इन्फॉर्म यू माता जी, डेफिनेटली।
ओके, थैंक यू
प्रभु जी, थैंक यू सो मच बुक रीडिंग सेशन के लिए। ऐसे जितना भी कोशिश करे हमसे होता नहीं है रेगुलर लाइफ में, डेली लाइफ में, तो इसके वजह से हमें बहुत कुछ जानने को भी मिल रहा है। डिवोटी एसोसिएशन भी हो रहा है और प्रभु जी का, शीला प्रभुपाद के साथ भी हमारी एसोसिएशन हो रही है।
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
ये तो जारी रहेगा ना प्रभु जी? कितने और
जी,
कितने दिन
माता जी।
चलेगा?
अभी ये
हाँ।
खत्म होगा तो मैं एक वीक में वापस स्टार्ट करूंगा। एक ईश्वर निषद करके जो बुक है वो हम लोग लेंगे और उसका भी जो तात्पर्य है प्रभुपाद का वो हम लोग पढ़ेंगे।
अच्छा, तो नेक्स्ट क्लास से ये स्टार्ट होगा ना?
जी, ईश्वर निषद स्टार्ट होगा। ईश्वर निषद।
ओके, ये खत्म हो गया, उपदेशमिता खत्म हो गया।
हाँ, उपदेशामृत खत्म हो गया। यस।
अच्छा अच्छा।
अब पूछना था सब डिवोटीज से कि आप लोग ये जो सेशंस है वो सब इंग्लिश में आप लोग प्रभुपाद की पुस्तकें पढ़ना चाहते हैं कि हिंदी में हम लोग पढ़े? आप क्या क्या राय है, मतलब कितने लोग चाहते हैं ऐसा? हिंदी में पढ़े कि इंग्लिश में कंटिन्यू करें हम लोग?
अभी इंग्लिश में चल रहा है ना?
जी,
इंग्लिश में ठीक है, क्योंकि हिंदी इतना पढ़ा नहीं जाता है actually। मतलब
तो चलेगा।
फास्ट फास्ट रीडिंग नहीं होता है।
हाँ हाँ, मतलब वो उसका शब्द बहुत
हाँ,
टफ होता है।
आप तो पढ़ लोगे, लेकिन हमें अगर पढ़ने के लिए बोलोगे तो हम अटक जाएंगे।
चलेगा
बट
माता जी।
करना
मैं
चाहिए वैसा।
हाँ, इंग्लिश में हम लोग पढ़ेंगे, चलेगा। जी। Okay, so we'll conclude here. वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री रूप गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय।
जय। हरे कृष्ण। दंडवत प्रभु जी।
हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
हरे कृष्ण।